Good morning, dear students. So, I welcome you to the module 4 of our teaching. In this module, we'll be discussing the chapter on heat, or to be more precise, the chapter will be named as heat transfer. So, as you know, whenever there are two bodies, say body A and body B, there will be a transfer of heat, right? Say if the body A has a temperature, say 100, and B has a temperature of 30, then the transfer will be from A to B. Let me just change the color. The transfer will be from A to B. So what I want to say with this example illustration is that heat always flows from the body with higher temperature to the body with a lower temperature. This is how generally a heat transfer takes place. You can do it with using your hand as well. Suppose your hand is at a higher temperature and you shake your hand with other person who is at a lower temperature, then you will observe that you will slowly start feeling coolness. Okay, so why that happens is actually the heat is getting transferred to the other person. It will stop until and unless it does not become equal with each other. Okay, so that is clear. So whenever this heat transfer takes place, it will have some effect on the bodies in which the heat is getting transferred or heat is getting transferred from. So I can say heat produces heat produces mainly the following three effects. So we are going to see at the three effects produced by the heat. So as you can see, we are going to discuss about three effects. So let us start them one by one. I'll just erase all of this. So let me just change the color. So first effect will be, as all of you might have guessed it by now, change in temperature. So whenever is a loss of heat, whenever there is a loss of heat, the temperature will come down. What I want to say is, if a body is at 100 degrees centigrade and it is cooling down, it will lose some heat, right? So in that case, it will result in the decrease of its temperature. Something it will come down to say 30 degrees centigrade. And in the same case, if a body is getting heated and earlier it was at 30 degrees centigrade, when it gets heated, it will increase its temperature on heating. If it was at 30 degrees centigrade, it will reach something like 100 degrees centigrade it will reach. So one of the effect that heat will produce whenever there is a transfer of heat is change in temperature. So that is the first effect that will be produced by the transfer of heat. So the second is change in state of the body. Change in the state change in the state of the body. As many of you might be able to recall, what is state? State is nothing but the different states in which a body can exist. So first one is solid, liquid and gases. These are the three states that we have discussed in the first chapter. So whenever there is a transfer of heat, something like if I have an ice, so whenever I give it some heat, it will change to water. It will change to water, right? So all of you know it changes to water, and when I produce more heat to this water, it will change to vapor, and vice versa. So if vapor is cooled down, it will come back to your liquid, and when liquid is cooled down, it will come back to solid, that is your ice. So we have looked at two effects of heat transfer. First one is change in temperature. Second one is the change in the state of the body. So let us go ahead with the last effect. So the last effect is change in the size of the body. Change in the size of the body. So what I want to say by change in the size of the body is, on heating some of the things will expand and some of the things when on cooling it will contract. Something like you would have seen something like a rail track. So if you would have noticed, there is a small gap kept between two rail tracks. So why is it kept is basically because of this region. Whenever there is a huge amount of heat produced, so this will expand and it will try to expand and it will reach till here. So if this gap is not left, so this will come down over here. So just to take care of this expansion, because of the heat generated, these rail tracks are kept at a certain distance. So this is one of the effect of heat transfer, which is a change in the size of the body. And even in the same case, when it cools down, it will contract and it will come back to its original place. That means this gap will again be restored. So these are the effects of heat. So we have started by saying heat produces mainly the following three effects. So first one is change in temperature, change in state of the body, change in size of the body. So one more effect we can see is effect of temperature on molecular motion. Remember, in the previous case we were looking at the effects of heat. Now we are looking at, we have already ended the heat effect of heat transfer. Now we are seeing whenever there is a rise in the temperature rise is because of heat. So what happens to the molecular motion? So I can write effect of temperature on molecular motion. So what do you mean by molecular motion is, as you know, all the molecules of a certain substance will always be at random motion. So this motion is only called as molecular motion. So let us try to understand how is it affected by temperature. As you know, if I have a glass, a vessel of water, and if it is at a lower temperature and it is at a normal temperature, you can see that the molecules does not move rapidly. Okay, but as soon as I start heating, what happens? It will start moving randomly. I think most of you would have noticed it. The sound of gurgling will come from this vessel. So what I can infer from this is very simple. Whenever temperature decrease, will also decrease the molecular motion, will decrease the molecular motion. Temperature decrease will also decrease the molecular motion, and vice versa. If I increase the temperature, so temperature increase will also increase the molecular motion. So let us just recall what we have learned. So when I started the video, I told you heat always flows from body with higher temperature to a body which is at lower temperature. So this is how we started. Then after that we looked at three effects of heat transfer. So those are change in temperature, change in state, and change in the size. After that we understood how this effect of temperature on molecular motion. So whenever temperature decreases, molecular motion will also decrease, and whenever temperature will increase, molecular motion will also increase. So with this I have come to the end of this video. I take your leave. Thank you, my dear students.